Ladies and gentlemen, I am a political commentator who was based in Hong Kong and is now based in Taiwan. My name is Sampu. This year, the 1st of July, is the 100th anniversary of the CCP. CCP was established in 1921. From the very beginning, it was a puppet party, fully controlled and dominated by the Third International, aka the Soviet Union. From Lenin to Stalin, the Soviet Union had a full grasp of this regime. This CCP regime was not an independent regime, but was a puppet by the Soviet Union. And all through these years, after they sought their independence by Mao Zedong during the so-called Long March, it's a long exile, in the 1930s, it gained some sort of independence, but not full independence from the Soviet Union. And bit by bit, after the death of Stalin, Mao got full independence from the Soviet Union. But all through these years, the years were really hostile. And their regime were really brutal and totalitarian. And they're cheating. And over the days, you can see so many slaughters by the Group AB events in the 1930s in the Jinggangshan area. And you see the Yan'an kind of wipeout movement back in 1940s. And after they got the regime of China, they threw very hostile means, like they starved the civilians in Changchun to death in 1940s. And after they got the regime, built up the country, so-called state of the People's Republic of China in 1949, they started a series of movements. In 1950, they started the land reform movement. And actually, they have a minimum quota to kill a certain percentage of people in China, namely those landlords and rich farmers. After that, they try to persecute those civil servants and also Kuomintang old officials and also merchants by certain movements. And later on, they put their focus on intellectuals, and they wipe out so-called intellectuals in the anti-right movement. And after all, there's a more devastating move. They killed more than 30 million people in China, farmers and workers alike, because in the kind of Great Leap Forward movement, they killed so many people during 1958 to 61. And after that, their social education movement, and after the Cultural Revolution, which was now well known worldwide. And the red flags and the red guards, little red guards, they are really monsters. And more than millions of people were killed in the Cultural Revolution regime. After Deng Xiaoping gained the power, the days were better, but not yet so good. And killings were still the way to sustain the regime of the CCP. Like in 1989, the June 4th incident is a massacre that has happened in Beijing. And so thousands of people died because of this. And they used tanks and used guns to slaughter the people. Those people were peaceful, without weapons. And after that, Jiang Zemin, they crushed the Falun Gong. They persecute those who are Christians. And all through the years, they persecute those civilians who are striving for their rights and proclaiming the strife for civil liberties and fundamental freedoms. Those lawyers and those activists were all in their blacklist and were persecuted. Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, and more seriously by Xi Jinping. So from the second half of the Hu Jintao regime and also the full regime, the 10 years dictated by Xi Jinping, China is in the dark ages, one of the darkest ages ever since my birth. And you know, all through these days, you see Xinjiang, Tibet, and also Hong Kong, they were crushed by this totalitarian regime. And you see, Hong Kong is an international city, and the one country, two systems is just a joke or simply a lie. But many people believe in that. And when they tear off their masks, they show up their teeth and claws, and everyone knows this is the reality and the genuine essence of the CCP regime. Through 2012, the anti-national education movement, and also the umbrella movement in 2014, and also the anti-extradition movement, the democratic movement in 2019 to 20. People are very brave, courageous, and with righteousness to proclaim peacefully in the streets, but nothing has changed. And there are of course some clashes between the people and also the police. And the police and also the national security arm of the CCP crushed this movement. And with the launch of the so-called national security law in June 2020, many people have chosen to keep quiet. And some of them, like me, have chosen to migrate to Taiwan and to become a new Taiwanese in Taiwan. The way ahead is not really bright. The way ahead will be full of hurdles. I will see there are three things that the international world should think about. One is the enlightenment and awakening of the Chinese people should be one of the agenda. Of course, you cannot wake up a person who pretends to sleep. But the point is, if this kind of totalitarian kind of hoo-ha and also this kind of proclamation have reached the peak, then the people will think about what's the aging problem of China, what's the economic growth rate of China, what's the unemployment rate of China, and how far a student can get a job in China. When there are some shaking, then people will rethink about why I should live under this kind of slave-free nation. And they will rethink and they will find their own way out. And people, the culture of the people is of the essence. I've said many times that the CCP regime is not on its own. It was supported by a culture and the people of China who are silent and intentionally silent to, they say, to lay down, okay, in order to prevent any crushes by the regime. But on the other hand, they do nothing. They are not doing any civil disobedience. They are not fighting for democracy. They are not fighting for their liberty, except a few people and a small portion of people. So the awakening and the enlightenment of the Chinese people should be in full swing. And this is one of the things that the Chinese people on their own can only help China. I myself and many others are out of China, and I'm not one of the Chinese pie. I cannot help them to help themselves. But the way they do it is to listen to our voices and rethink on their own. The second layer is the borders, peripherals, and the surroundings of China, namely Tibet and also Hong Kong and also Myanmar and also, you see, Taiwan. And all these countries and also or places, these people will need to segregate and also prevent this regime from interfering into their businesses. Like the Tibetans in India, in Dharamsala, they need to think about how they can preserve their own culture and language. Same for Hong Kong. Although they are now being crushed, although there were no 4th June candlelight vigil and also no kind of rally on the 1st of July, and also no Apple Daily anyway. But Hong Kong people will need to think about how to preserve their own culture, preserve their own values and visions with their own generation and the next. And for Taiwan, there are so many CCP helpers that they are helping the CCP to assimilate into the Taiwan media and also every sector of the business or even the government. So the Taiwan government will need to stand firm on liberties and democracy and also fight hard to protect Taiwan, defend Taiwan against the CCP challenges. And the third layer will be for other countries in the whole world, like the US, Canada, you have Australia, you have New Zealand, you have Britain, Japan, India, Korea, and also so many countries in Europe and many other places as well. For all these countries, Indochina, Quad, or even you see the Five Eyes, you name it, they need to stand firm on the liberties and democracy grounds, and also to defend themselves, to clear up those Confucius kind of colleges influences, and to get rid of those spies by the CCP, and also to stop the One Belt, One Road kind of initiative of China, and also prevent China uses the vaccine as the kind of diplomatic stepping stone to assimilate into the whole world and to be a hegemony of the whole world. This kind of hegemony over the whole world is one of the ancient kind of vision or mission of this kind of Chinese empire. And the emperor of China is nowadays Xi Jinping. And Emperor Xi is doing the same thing. They dress in nice suits, but they think in similar ways as ancient emperors. They are so naughty and also very bad and also brutal emperors in the same way. And how you can defend it? Because they use sophisticated methods and also tactics to get into the hearts and the devices of every teenagers and the people of the United States and over the world. And how you can prevent it? This needs some wisdom and tactic, and after all, courage to do the things. Peace through strength is very important. Don't only talk the talk, but we need to see everybody walk the walk. Only when people walk the walk, then the CCP regime will face a huge challenge which they need to draw back. And somehow, when they feel the pressure externally and internally, then it will face a very critical challenge how they make the decision. If they fail to make a right decision, then the whole regime will face a collapsing demise. This will be soon, this will be later, I don't know. But I think sooner or later, this will happen. 100 years is a long time. I don't believe there will be another 100 years. Maybe a few years more, maybe a decade. The CCP regime is now kind of rioting, ruining within itself, but it is not collapsing. Okay, it will not collapse all through one night, but it is now like ruining, and also kind of within the inner core of the sphere. You can see everyone is singing red songs and praising Xi Jinping to be the best. And this kind of dictatorship is similar to what we have faced in Adolf Hitler and also Joseph Stalin. And you can see Joseph Stalin has reigned his regime for half a decade. Okay, Adolf Hitler is much shorter period. But anyway, you will see CCP is now facing a 100-year anniversary. How long more it will take before it's collapsed? I can't guess, because guessing will not help. Action will help. What's action? I've told you, 3 layers that we need to take some action. Hand in hand, we stand tall, we stand together, and I believe that every one of us who believe in freedoms and core values to pursue what is really good, true, and also against the evil of the CCP will stand tall and stand together to work against it. I believe that this 100th anniversary is just a kind of hoo-ha or kind of a sparkle of the CCP before its demise. You can see so many roads were blocked in Beijing. You can see a hoo-ha show by so many people waving red flags, singing red songs in a kind of theater, a grand theater. It is similar to the Alilang events in North Korea. No wonder there are so many people saying that the PRC China is having another name, which is West Korea. And this is the way that how they see the whole thing's happening. After all, let's work together. Let's tell the truth and do the justice. And also be mindful of how we can make use of the Wuhan virus, the China virus, as one of the chip to seek huge indemnities, huge compensation. And that's what the whole world should put things into action. Without this action, okay, the whole world will not shake. If you're afraid of doing something and keep the dictator on his own stage, that's what the appeasement policy by Chamberlain against for Adolf Hitler. And after all, this will not stop Adolf Hitler from enlarging and continue to encroach against the others. The only way to stop it is to warn it and put warnings into action. It's not just lip service. So hopefully, I wish those brilliant minds in the US and all over the world will know what I mean and also put real steps into action. Thank you very much. This is not the end of the world. This is not something that worth really having a champagne to celebrate. But I think this is a challenge, a test put by God, the Almighty, for every one of us in mankind. God bless you. God bless everyone in America, in Canada, in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Europe, Taiwan, and everyone in Hong Kong. God bless Hong Kongers, and God bless all the Chinese to be awakening. This is far more important than what I've said. God bless you.